Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Brev. Welcome to another MLB The Show 20 video. In this one, I'm going to be ranking all 30 of the Stage 4 Team Affinity cards, the new Finest release. If you guys are new to the channel, please subscribe for more MLB The Show 20 content and drop a like on the video. Would greatly appreciate that. So this video is going to attempt to rank all 30 of them. They're going to be ranked against each other, not against other cards in the market. I will be posting an updated tier list, and that will compare every card in the game to each other. This one is just comparing Finest releases from Team Affinity to each other. There's 6 cards in S tier, 6 cards in A tier, and that's my top 12 for this release. And the differences in S and A are pretty marginal. I just think those 12 cards are the best 12 cards. So you may also disagree with me on this list, that's fine. Just trying to give you guys a framework of which Team Affinities to target for the Stage 4 rewards, and you can get these cards at 240 points in the Affinity. You don't need to go all the way to 300. Additionally, this will not go over any of the Finest cards from the Finest pack. These are just the Team Affinity Stage 4 rewards. Should also mention before I get into the cards that I really value hitting attributes versus righties much more than hitting attributes versus lefties. I don't think they're equal at all. You are going to face righties about 75% of the time, so I give about 2 or 3 times more weight to hitting attributes versus righties than I do versus lefties. This spread may become even more drastic since most of the pitchers released in Finest are right-handed. Just wanted to be clear that I don't value hitting attributes versus right-handed pitchers in the same way that I value them against left-handed pitchers, and that may come through in some of my rankings. Kicking off S tier, we have, in my opinion, a top 3 catcher in the game now, Salvador Perez. He brings the 125, 112 versus righties, as well as max power versus left. Remember, you're going to be facing righties more often, so those attributes are really good. He also has good enough defense behind the plate. I know a lot of people, myself included, have been running with Jimmy Fox at catcher. This guy gets +7 to the arm strength compared to Fox, so that is a plus. I really like this card. Easily one of the best catcher options in the game now. Second in S tier, you guys know this one was coming. Juan Soto. Debatably the best hitting card in the game now. Maxed out hitting attributes except for he is missing 6 power versus right. Amazing swing. This card is going to destroy the baseball. Like I said, debatably the best hitting card in the game. I don't think the defense is going to be too good, but I don't think it's as bad as it looks just because his reaction is over 80. I think that does a lot of favors for him. But one little thing I've noticed about Juan Soto is that actually all these Finest cards get their live series quirks, which are actually active. So like Night Player, Road Warrior, he will get boosts in certain situations in game, which is not true for like Legends. Their quirks are like not active. So like first pitch hitter, he's gonna have a higher PC or a bigger PCI on the first pitch of an at bat. All the Finest cards have these live series quirks, but Soto just has a ton of them. So I think this is why he may be the best hitter in the game, and you could definitely make an argument for top 3 outfielder and worthy of a starting spot in your outfield. Just a completely insane card. Next in S tier, I'm a little weary about this one because I haven't had success with Jacob deGrom cards in the past, but this one may be a little different. This is the only starting pitcher I have in S tier, but I have a lot of them in A tier, and I don't think they're too far behind. But on paper, I think this is the best starter released in Stage 4 Team Affinity because he does get outlier and he does get the 2-seamer as well. So deGrom's going to be pumping 102 fastballs, but he also has the 2-seam fastball, which if you throw low effort, low in the zone, can go as low as 95 miles an hour. This is basically how a Future Stars Michael Kopech card would look, but with way better per 9s, obviously. So I think because of the outlier and maintaining the 2-seamer, also the fact that he can throw 94 on his slider, I like that a lot. This card could be good this year. I'm really hoping he is. I'm rating him as the best starter in Stage 4 Affinity. Almost max per 9s for a starter is actually crazy as well. So I think you're going to get a lot of dubs versus people that can't hit velocity, that's for sure with this card. So I want to love him. I hope he's amazing. We'll see when I use him. Fourth in S tier, we have the best reliever released in this content, in my opinion. I don't think a lot of people are going to disagree with me in this one. This is debatably the best relief pitcher card in the entire game for me. Primary changeup, maxed out per 9s, including pitching clutch. The control is his worst attribute, but you're going to have to miss something. And the pitch repertoire is just insane. A 4-seamer that hits 99, a cutter that will go as low as 85, a sinker that's slightly slower than the 4-seam, and then 2 changeups basically, but a straight changeup primary. This card is just off the charts ridiculous. I mean, and he's got a pretty glitchy delivery in game. If you haven't faced Devin Williams live series yet, pretty hard to read. I think, like I said, this is debatably the best reliever in the whole game. card is disgusting. You need to have him in your bullpen for sure. Mookie also in S tier. This may be a little controversial, but remember what I said about how I feel with splits. Basically maxed out versus righties, which I think is way more important than versus lefties. He's got maxed out fielding except for arm strength, just insane. 72 speed is more than good enough with his reaction and fielding out in the outfield. And what really sets this card apart is he does end up getting the second base secondary, so you can play this guy at second base with diamond defense if you have a full outfield, which I think most people do. This card easily skyrockets into the top second base options in the game for me. Really good card that it's weird to say, but I think a lot of people are sleeping on this Mookie Betts card. 75% of the time you're going to have basically maxed out hitting attributes, and you're also going to have diamond defense at any position that he plays. Rounding out S tier, we have Manny Machado for the San Diego Padres. I mean, just look at this card. It is beautiful. I will have a couple caveats with Machado. One is that he has shortstop secondary, which is great. It gives him a lot of utility. But I usually value a little bit of speed at shortstop because it helps with his range moving right to left. So I don't know how good of a shortstop this guy will be, even though he has the diamond defense, just because he's slow. It will remain to be seen, but he's going to have 99 arm at shortstop as well. So if he has to make a play in the hole and he actually gets to the ball, basically he's going to give you the best chance he's got. I may try him at shortstop just because third base is so deep, but yeah, this card rakes. Diamond defense. His prestige is going to have 99 everything except arm accuracy, which doesn't matter if you're using button accuracy for fielding. Just a completely absurd card yet again. I am in love with this card. I will say that typically third base defense hasn't mattered a ton for me this year, but we'll see if Machado gets special auto dives that stay in the glove or something. Regardless, it's not like you're sacrificing anything to get the defense. This is one of the best hitting cards for third base in the game as well. Just insane. I love this card a lot. Moving on to A tier, and again, these cards are not too far behind the cards in S tier. First one up is Nick Anderson from the Tampa Bay Rays. This card is about as good as it gets on paper with the per 9s again, maxed out with hits per 9, K per 9, and pitching clutch, but also way more walks per 9 and control than Devin Williams. Unfortunately, his pitch repertoire is not as good as Devin Williams, but because Nick Anderson's delivery is pretty glitchy, he comes way over the top, kind of like Blake Snell. I think you can have a lot of success just working high tunnels and working four-seam sinker. His slider, curveball are unfortunately the same speed, but I think four-seam sinker slider is good enough for this card, especially since you should be able to spot your pitches where you want, and your opponent's PCIs are going to be so small. Next in A tier, and could easily make the jump up to S tier after a couple starts for me if I'm having success with him. Darvish, I think maybe one of the more slept on starting pitcher releases as well. I think this card is crazy, especially with the pitch repertoire, the control. The knock on him is that his per 9s are significantly lower than the other starting pitchers like Bauer, deGrom, people like that, but this card brings a lot to the table. So cutter primary with max break, that is going to be very useful. He also pitches out of the stretch entirely, and he brings 99 walks per 9 to the table. So the combination of 99 walks per 9 and pitching out of the stretch, I think, is going to help him spot up his pitches very, very well. I think you're going to be able to locate extremely well with this card. I've been using Carlos Carrasco, who also pitches out of the stretch with high walks per 9, and I feel like I can put the ball wherever I want. So, also this card's best 3 pitches are cutter, four-seam, sinker, which are not pitches that hang as much as like other off-speed in the game. So, moral of the story, I think this card's control is going to be off the charts. I think he's very good. His pitch repertoire is basically the same as Al Leiter's, who is a card I still struggle to hit against from time to time. So really good card, kind of slept on, like I said. I'm going to be using him a lot. Next up in A tier, we have another pitcher from the NL Central, Trevor Bauer. This card could easily be in S tier with the stamina and the per 9s that he brings to the table. Those per 9s are just off the charts for a starter. The reason he's not in S tier yet for me is because of his pitch repertoire. I haven't used a high diamond Trevor Bauer yet before. I don't know if he's gotten one ever. And the fact that he only hits 97 is a little concerning for me. He does have crazy speed differential between four-seam and cutter, which is something I'm usually a fan of. But in general, his pitch repertoire, it remains to be seen if he'll be effective. But there's no denying that those per 9s, if his pitch repertoire is even decent, it's going to put this card over the top. So this card could easily be better than where I'm rating him right now. we shall see. Controversial one in A tier as well, rating him so high, I suppose, because this card has gotten a lot of flack on Twitter and other social media for not being juiced enough, which is a fair argument. But as is, I still think Freddy Freeman one of the best first baseman options in the game. Remember what I said about splits? 75% of the time or more you are going to be hitting with 125, 117. And Freddy has diamond defense at first base. He's got over 90 fielding and 90 reaction. So really good option at first base. I know a lot of people play like Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig there. Against righties, this card is not that much different than Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth, and he's also going to have significantly better defense there. So really all you got to worry about is hitting against lefties, which you may not see a whole lot of moving forward for the reasons I mentioned earlier in the video. Despite all the flack he's gotten, I still think this is a really good card for the meta. Also, third base secondary as well, kind of a sneaky way to get another lefty in your lineup if you want to play him at third base. Another starting pitcher in A tier. This one's kind of on the other end of the spectrum compared to Trevor Bauer, though. This is a card that I've rated in A tier that I could easily see being worse than A tier, and I'll talk about why. So obviously the per-9s are crazy, pretty much on par with Trevor Bauer, maybe even a little better. But a couple things concern me about this card. One, he only tops out at 96. Two, his walks per 9 and control is fairly low compared to other options. And the main thing that really concerns me about this card is his lack of speed differential. If you look at all of his pitches and you take away the curveball, because you're not going to be throwing the curveball a whole lot, the most speed differential he has is 9 miles an hour between his entire pitch repertoire. If you include the curveball, it's 11. So basically every pitch is going to be roughly the same timing window for the hitters. Like it's going to be very easy for people to just foul pitches off early or late and just kind of swing in a general area regardless of what the pitch is. This guy is really going to struggle on all-star difficulty, which is where most people play. This card is pretty much exclusively a per-9s pitcher, and while those per-9s are off the charts, I think he may struggle with that pitch repertoire. So he's an A tier for now, but could easily see him dropping lower. And rounding out A tier, call me an A's homer if you want, but we have Liam Hendriks 99 overall, of course. This card is much more juiced than I thought it would be, and it makes me really happy looking at him. So again, maxed out per 9s. Unfortunately, he does only have 116 pitching clutch. Some of the other guys had 125. But what Liam brings to the table is 109 walks per 9. This guy walked basically nobody this year. Crazy walks per 9. You should be able to control basically everything with this card without an issue. And they gave him a changeup as well. I also like Liam cards in the past. You can really throw the sliders high because it tops out at 90 miles an hour. So it allows you to do a lot of great tunnels. He tops out at 99 with his 4-seam. His 2-seam is significantly slower. You can throw the 2-seam as low as 91. So a lot of speed differential that you may not see looking at the card that this guy brings to the table, and I think he's just going to be really effective. Your opponent's going to have a small PCI, and you're going to be able to induce a lot of weak contact by just getting your opponent to just barely miss with timing or with their PCI placement. So that's it for S tier and A tier. That is my top 12. Now that we're moving into B tier and the rest of the cards, I'm going to start moving a little faster, just give my quick thoughts on each card. First card in B tier is Trevor Story. I love Trevor Story's swing a lot. However, the splits versus righties just aren't good enough for me. He does have diamond defense at shortstop with 85 speed. He will play great defense for you, but most of the time you're going to have 97 contact, 81 power at the plate, which is just not great in my book. Next in B tier, Jacob Stallings. Really good card if you can get him against a lefty, and he brings insane catcher defense to the table. But again, facing righties, you're going to be 87, 84. At higher difficulties, Hall of Fame legend, that is just simply not good enough. Although this guy is insane if you get him against a lefty, and like I said, great defense. Another catcher in B tier, JT Realmuto. This guy is kind of like a jack of all trades, master of none, except for contact versus left, which is maxed out. 91 arm strength is good. 75 speed is good. 112 power versus right is good. 91 power versus left is good, but nothing's really great, like I said, except for 125 contact versus left, which you won't get to use very often. I loved JT Realmuto Finest last year. This card could play above his attributes for sure based on his swing, but 85 contact versus right is just a little scary, so he's sitting in B tier. Next in B tier, this one might be a little controversial that he's not rated higher, especially considering the attributes that I've told you I weight highly. DJ LeMahieu. He has everything you want at the plate, basically better splits versus righties, maxed out contact versus both sides, and almost maxed out vision But the reason this card's a little lower is because he's going to play pretty horrible middle infield defense for you. You can't really play him at shortstop because of the 61 arm strength, so even though he has the secondary position, he's not going to be great there at all. And even at second base, the 43 speed is really going to hurt him. Moving to his right and left, again, I value speed a lot in my middle infield because I feel like it helps with their range a ton, especially on slow choppers. So I have a feeling this LeMahieu card is going to play very bad defense. A lot of people don't like his swing as well. On paper, looks great as a hitter, but not great as a defender. Anthony Santander, another card that's really close to being great, but just missing one vital thing, and that is speed for this card. He is switch hitter with better splits against righties, which is great. However, only having 56 speed in the outfield is going to make that diamond defense play down a lot. He does have over 90 fielding and reaction, but the 56 speed, especially in balls deep in the gap, he's just not going to get there. I feel like you can have much better options in your outfield right now. So even though this card is pretty good, just B tier. Lourdes Gurriel is next. This is actually a sneaky card that could maybe be rated higher given his utility. You can play him in the infield except at first base, which I like a lot. Again, though, he's kind of slow, so how well defensively he'll play at second and short, it remains to be seen, but he will maintain gold defense at secondary positions, so I like that a lot. He also has higher contact versus right and higher power versus right, almost max contact versus right actually, and I do like Lourdes Gurriel's swing a lot. He took many great at-bats for me in ESL and BR this year, so kind of a sneaky hitter card. I don't imagine seeing much of this guy, but I think he's pretty underrated, still B tier though. Then we have Giovanni Gallegos. This card doesn't really jump off the paper for me. Even though he has the great per-9s as most of them do, the main issue is, again, the pitch repertoire. He pretty much only throws 2 speeds. The slider primary is nice, but he only tops out at 96, and all your off speed's the same speed and all your fastballs are the same speed, so I have a feeling, especially on lower difficulties, this guy's gonna get lit up. And rounding out B tier, and a card that honestly could be rated lower, Zach Gallen. Not really a fan of this card on paper. He tops out at 96. His pitch repertoire is okay, but the cutter only 5 miles an hour slower. He's got low walks per 9 in the 70s, so it's probably going to be hard to locate, and not as good per 9s as the other starting pitcher options that have come out in this release. We'll use him, we'll try him, but not expecting a lot for this card. I don't think he looks very good. And finally, we have the cards in C tier. Keep in mind these cards are rated against each other and not against other cards in the game, so even though I'm rating Kyle Tucker in C tier, it doesn't mean he's a bad option, especially compared to some other cards that were released earlier in the year. But I just don't see anything this guy brings to the table that someone like Kevin Kiermaier doesn't, and Kiermaier has maxed out fielding, so that's why this card is rated as low as he is. I know he has a glitchy swing. I know he's probably going to play above those attributes, but for right now, he's in C tier for me. Next is Tim Anderson. I know a lot of people aren't going to like this one, but I really think this is one of the worst releases out of all the teams. He doesn't have 80 power versus right, and his splits are lower versus righties, which I've already talked about to no end. But additionally, a little sneaky thing about him is that he only has 74 arm strength at shortstop. And if you wanted to hide that arm strength by playing him at second or third, his defense will drop down to silver instead of gold. So in order to maintain gold defense, you have to play him at shortstop, but if you play him at shortstop, he has a weak arm. Just not really a good time. Probably not going to be great defensively at shortstop, and his splits versus righties are way worse. I think this is just honestly not that good of a card. Next is Mike Yastrzemski. This card easily could have been rated higher, honestly. I truly don't hate this card on paper, and his swing has always been very good for me. I just wish he had 2 more fielding to get to diamond. You can do that with the Prestige if you'd like, but I don't know how many people are going to work on Mike Yastrzemski Prestige, and he's also a little slow for the outfield. Same issue as Anthony Santander. Only 63 speed. He's just not going to get to balls that other guys get to. Next is Nelson Cruz. I really wanted to rate this guy higher because obviously he rakes, but I just can't justify rating a guy higher than C tier that's basically unusable in your starting lineup. If you wanted to start this guy, you'd have 67 fielding, 65 reaction, and 32 speed in right field. That is about as unusable as it gets for this time of the year. So this is a bench bat. As a bench bat, he'd be rated much higher, but because he literally can't start for you, in my opinion, that's why he's in C tier. Great hitter, though. Love his swing, love his splits. Heimer Candelario. Again, I know this guy's swing is glitchy, but worse splits versus righties. Only silver defense, plays 2 of the deepest positions in the game. Gotta be in C tier. Kyle Lewis could easily be rated higher as well. I just have him a little low, again, because of the outfield speed and the fact that you have to play him in center field to get diamond defense. Also, his reaction is lower than his fielding, which usually doesn't bode well for defensive animations, at least in my opinion. That's what I found this year. So this guy is, again, kind of in the Realmuto territory, where he's good at a lot of things but not great at really anything except for power versus left. So he's in C tier. He could be higher, but I just don't think he's making anyone's outfield. Xander Bogart's C tier. Again, the splits versus righties are hurting you, but even worse than that is his fielding. If you want to play him at second or third, he's going to have bronze fielding with only 68 speed, and at shortstop, he's going to have silver fielding, which is pretty sketchy compared to what you can get nowadays as well. Also, from years past, I don't know what it is, if I've been unlucky, but it seems like Xander Bogart's cards always make errors for me. I don't know what it is. It just seems like he plays horrible defense every time I try to use him. Just not a fan of his cards. He's going to rake versus lefties, as a lot of these cards do, but as far as a starter in your lineup, probably not an option. Next, Lance Lynn, easily the worst starter that was released. Pretty low per nines compared to everyone else. The fastball speed differential is not great between each other, and the off-speed speed differential is not great between each other. So again, a card that basically only has 2 speeds. Very easy delivery to pick up as a hitter as well. This card's going to get rocked. Second to worst card, in my opinion, is David Fletcher. This could be controversial as well. My problem with this card is that he's an archetype that is supposed to be like a crazy defensive option at shortstop, right? The 93 fielding, the 99 reaction. However, he only has 60 speed, and I've already talked about how speed can really be beneficial in terms of range in the middle infield this year. So this guy's supposed to be like a crazy defensive option, but with the speed, he's going to be looking like he's running in quicksand a lot, especially on plays. I don't imagine he'll have a lot of range. And also, contact hitting at this point of the year just isn't playing very well. Tony Gwynn has basically identical hitting stats to this card, and I struggled a lot with Tony Gwynn, honestly, a lot of lineouts, because he just doesn't have the power to get perfects out of the yard. So not expecting a lot from this guy. He just doesn't play as he should for the archetype that he is. And finally, the worst card in the set. This card's basically just a meme, Miguel Rojas. I tweeted this, but this card's 4 lowest attributes that are actually important are arguably the 4 most important attributes for a shortstop in the game. Those being contact versus right, power versus right, arm strength, and speed. They're all really bad on this card. This card is awful. Let's just move on. That's going to do it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed these rankings. Again, a friendly reminder to drop a like on the video and subscribe if you're new. I post a ton of MLB The Show content that I'm sure you will love. Just as a recap on the rankings, S tier, Salvador Perez, Juan Soto, Jacob deGrom, Devin Williams, Mookie Betts, Manny Machado. A tier is Nick Anderson, Darvish, Trevor Bauer, Freddy Freeman, Shane Bieber, and Liam Hendriks. B tier is Trevor Story, Jacob Stallings, JT Realmuto, DJ LeMahieu, Anthony Santander, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., Giovanni Gallegos, and Zach Gallen. And C tier is Kyle Tucker, Tim Anderson, Mikey Strimsky, Nelson Cruz, Heimer Candelario, Kyle Lewis, Xander Bogarts, Lance Lynn, David Fletcher, and Miguel Rojas. Thank you guys so much for watching until the end. Let me know down in the comment section below which one of these cards you guys are going after first. And if you made it all the way to the end, be sure to drop a comment as well, Bauer for Cy Young, down below. Thanks for watching. Appreciate and love all you guys. Catch you in the next one. Peace.